That was awesome. Thank you to Whitemouth School. We are going to have our treaty acknowledgement, and I'm going to ask Trustee Smith to read out our treaty acknowledgement.
We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thanks, Alicia. Before we move on to the adoption of our agenda, we do have a full slate of trustees that are here and our staff. However, we do have a couple of guests. One guest probably has met all of our trustees before, but one hasn't. So trustees, can we go around the room and just introduce yourself to Randall so that they can tell you, you can tell them what ward or what area that you represent. So Randall, I represent Powerview.
Robin Harris, I represent the Beausejour ward. No, that's correct.
Lorraine Boydson, I represent Enola and Hazel Ridge.
Good evening, Randall. My name is Dustin Dent, and I represent Ward 4, which is the Oakbank area.
John Nicola, I represent Whitemouth Reynolds, Ward 1.
Alicia Smith, Ward 5, Beausejour, and about a kilometer or two outside.
Diane Rowland from Dugald, Ward 3.
Hi, my name is Melissa Rowan. I'm Ward 4 with the Oakbank area.
So thanks. So we have our full complement of our senior staff as well as our board support here with us. For the people that are listening online, we have Randall Bonito, he's the principal at Whitemouth School, and we have Serena Kloss, the president of Sunrise Teachers Association, who are with us today. 2.1 is the adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved, the board approve the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nichols, seconded by Trustee Smith. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Right. At least it wasn't me that I knew. There we go. 9-0. Thank you very much for doing that, for joining. Chair's comments. So please, if you have questions, send them to jody.thiessen@sunrisesd.ca. Put your name and address of the sender included in the email, and we'll try to get to those questions during question period if you do. 3.2 is share a story. So I open up the floor to anybody who wants to go ahead and share a story. Trustee Nichol.
February, of course, is a Love to Read month, and we had some visitors there. The most important one was Wayne Iwasco, the Minister of Education, was reading to our students. We had 3 local authors that have published books in the Whitemouth area. They read to the students, and also our CMP came out. The grade 6s, 4 to 6, went to Oakhammond March for Voyager Day. So those are the things that happened in Whitemouth in the last 2 weeks.
Thanks, Don. Share a story, anyone else? Trustee Rowan?
I wanted to take a moment and thank Oakbank Elementary. They had me out to read to 4 of their classes for I Love to Read Month. The students were super engaging, and I even got some hugs at the end as I was getting ready to leave. I also wanted to give a shout out to the École Dugald School Honor Choir who sang the anthem at the Moose game on the 15th. They did an excellent job.
Yeah, that's awesome for sure. Thank you. Anyone else? Share a story? Trustee Smith?
We had a PAC meeting at EBEYS again. The principal was not there, so we had someone covering for him. It went rather well. We still have we have to basically go back and redo our, we don't have enough people. So either if we don't get more people, we might have to fold. So we have to adjust our numbers or fold, unfortunately. So we do need more parents to come and get involved. I also was part of Winterfest yesterday. It's a thing the Rec Commission puts on. It's a huge event. I'm not sure if everyone went to it. I was part of the story reader, and there was a wonderful elder that came out, and she just rattles stories off the top of her head. She's absolutely wonderful. Had a great time. Lots of people. I think that's all I have right now. Thanks.
Thanks, Alicia. Anyone else? So I had a chance to go to Parview School, and Melissa, there was a Mr. Magna that read, and there was a Mrs. Magna that read, and I think the Mrs. Magna got more hugs than the Mr. Magna that read, from what people tell me, even though I tried to read my best French impersonation of the hockey sweater. But you know what? I had a really good time. And you know what? Going into schools and seeing kids in schools and seeing different classrooms, and you know what, I got my eyes opened with the work that some of our teachers have to go ahead and do, and so kudos to the work that they do on a regular basis. So I was pretty happy, and I called Parview School at a Festival de Voyageurs Day, and it was great to see kids outside engaged, and you know, we haven't been doing those things, and you know what, we're seeing those things all across our division, so is it awesome to go ahead and see those kind of things? Yes. And I know all of our high schools and our junior highs are very busy with sports things that are going on and trying to wrap up school sports before spring break. So thanks to all the teachers that are supervising or coaching our teams. You know what, you're putting in a lot of hours, and it's really nice to see our kids getting out and involved that way. So thank you for that. Anyone? Kath?
I just have a really quick shout out to Jody Wilgosh and Trevor Reed, who are leading some of our recruitment work, and they were out at U of M today and have been at US Bay and are heading to U of W. So just a shout out that if we have any friends and family members and people who are looking for jobs, now is the time to get their names and resumes out there. It'll come up pretty quick once budget's approved that we'll be looking for some teachers in our school division. So thanks to them for leading the charge on our recruitment.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you for doing that. We have a board delegation. He's standing right in front of me, but I'm going to turn it over to Kath to introduce our smiling face.
Welcome to Randall Bonato, who is the principal at Whitemouth School. I believe that he does a great big ton of good work at Whitemouth School and has a wonderful presentation lined up for you. So I'm going to just do the technology work, and Randall, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I'd like to first to thank the Board of Trustees, Senior Administration Support Staff, and the Community of Sunrise School Division for allowing me to present the hard work of the staff of Whitemouth School, where our aim is to provide the success for every single student in our school. Just some very quick facts before I go over one of our main goals. Our student population seems to be bouncing up and down a little bit right now, but we're currently sitting at 168. I'm not going to go over every fact here, but one of the main ones that I do want to point out is the 15.48, the total student support area, and that's what I categorize it as, is student support. That's our teaching, resource, guidance, and myself. We have 3 goals at our school. 2 are in writing, as I like to call it, which is the literacy numeracy, and we have one that we talk about consistently since I started there 4 years ago, which is culture. But today, what I'm going to discuss with you is our numeracy goal. With our numeracy goal, this journey began 4 years ago. When I first started there, the goal was just based upon just problem solving, and we needed to really dig deep and to figure out what is it about problem solving we need to look at. Over the few years that I've been there, it has evolved into what you currently see. Each year, something gets added a little bit, sometimes things are being taken out, but currently this is where we sit, and that is students from K to 12 will demonstrate an improvement in their knowledge to use critical thinking and to solve problems in academic and life situations. So when I started there, we wanted to come up with a plan, and I came up with the idea of coming up with a 5-year plan. We're currently in our 3rd year. Our literacy goal is in our 4th year. With our 5-year plan, the number one thing that we wanted to look at was how are we going to be able to support students that are in need and achieving their success. And one of them was, first and foremost, to come up with the concept of RTI. and that is response to intervention, which I'll go into deeper very shortly. This type of intervention is a targeted intervention that I was used to in previous divisions. The theory, research, and practice indicated that RTA is one way. There's other ways, but this is one way. Teachers can respond to students who may not be meeting the grade level goal, outcomes, meeting some of them and who are even meeting them. No matter where a student lies within the scope of RTA, the goal is student success. It is a three-tiered approach, and it is a targeted approach. We also brought in the 5-year plan. We implemented formative assessments, and not just using summative assessments. We started off with generating our own school-initiated problem-solving rubric, which is currently being used in 2 classrooms, which I'll go over shortly as well. And we also decided to borrow the EAL document, the Outcome Numeracy Assessment, and you'll see that as well. These 2 documents, along with using the summative assessments, and of course with observation, is how we use our decision making and our goal setting on planning day with the data that we receive. It's triangulated. In supporting as well, we want to provide PD for our staff, and you'll see where that fits within the RTI pendulum. And with that, we are currently, of course, moving into critical thinking and problem solving with the mini residency from Alan Stevenson.
Randall, can you explain what you meant by that our data is triangulated?
Yes. The formative assessment is to give us the knowledge that so that teachers can see where students are at. It's not a grade base where it's percentage going on report cards. It is just looking at it as this is where the students are at, this is where I have to now use my instruction to get to the level where the students are currently sitting within the outcomes of that program. So right now, of course, with literacy and with numeracy. The summative assessments, of course, is your projects, your tests, things like that. And observation is your anecdotal data. That's this observation to see if a student is actually understanding the concepts that's being taught by moving around the room or them coming to you and answering questions. It can be verbal as well.
So I just wanted to make sure your teachers are taking those 3 forms of data, right? That's what triangulated? Thank you.
Yes, that's what they use. So we also use classroom profiles. We utilize that. In our classroom profiles, they have other pieces to them, such as behavior, literacy, and other factors. But one other thing that's in our classroom profile is the numeracy aspect. And we look, and teachers, before they even do a formative assessment, they actually figure out what it is that they're going to have to be taking a look at, just based upon 6 weeks or so of instruction. Okay. So here's the RTI. Now it is different with literacy. So numeracy, when we implement RTI into numeracy, what we have is first year we completely concentrated on the tier 1. Tier 1 is your classroom instruction. It's your base instruction. And that's going to hit 80% of the students within your classroom on average. Okay? This is where we have the mini residency coming in. So Alan Stevenson comes in, teaching critical thinking as well as problem solving techniques, different techniques that can be utilized within the classroom, which I'll get a little deeper in later on. And it's also can be where the outcome-based assessment and the problem-solving assessment can be utilized to see where your class is in a general sense, so it can guide your instruction. So that's the core piece. Tier 2, this is where you get into group. For this is where the resource learning support classroom and the classroom teacher will support a group of 2 to 4. And we figured that out based upon our formative assessments. 15% roughly lie in this area. The red is your increase of support. So as you move up in the pendulum, or into the pyramid, sorry, you increase your support, and that is generally one-on-one support for students. So what you have to also understand is that students can move from red to yellow back to red, down to green, up to yellow, depending on what outcomes are being taught and where there's a gap in their learning or understanding. Okay? So in following the format of RTI, I will now talk to you about what occurs at each level, and we're going to start off with the green zone. So typically, the green zone students are those students that you may see on a report card receiving 3s and 4s, which is equivalent to the 70 to 100% range is what they're receiving on their report cards, which is your summative assessments. And also we use that number within our outcome-based assessment. So at the core instruction, this is just the mini residency that we have Alan Stevenson doing with us. It is 5 full days where he sits and goes into a classroom and he teaches a lesson. He'll have 3 to 4 teachers with him at that time teaching a lesson for a class in numeracy. What he will do then is bring the teachers together in another room, discuss what they saw, what can they do to apply, how would it look in their classroom if they were to do it, and then the teachers collaborate on what was being taught. We also have within the mini residency, as part of it, is the MRLC, which is the NAP. Now, I don't know what MRLC, yeah, no, NAP, yes. Numeracy Achievement Program has been changed to. That is a pacing guide that they follow, the numeracy teachers, and there's a formative assessments, which we just did one, and that's grades 6 to 9. That's involved. We also are starting to take a look at and use the divisional math progression chart, which is K to 9, and also implementing the math block framework. We also, within the mini residency, what is happening currently is the increased use of math manipulatives, K to 9, which I have purchased throughout from kindergarten through to grade 9 for every student now to be using. We also follow the theme of making manipulatives meaningful to connect the outcomes being taught. As well, vertical learning, which I'll go over in a short bit, connects 21st century learning, and articles are being studied and they're comparing to current practices in classrooms, so discussions occur from that as well. Here's some examples of green zone area where all students are involved. It's inclusive, so students will be using manipulatives, as you can see in the grade 1-2 classroom. They are making 5s using counters, and on the upper left corner they also use the iPads, and one of the programs in the 1-2 room is Sundog, okay, and that is a rote practice of foundational outcomes for grades 1 to 3. Mathletics is another program that we mainly use for grades 4 to 6. This is math manipulatives being used in high school. So the high school teachers find that the use of manipulatives not only provides a connection to the outcomes being taught, it aids in keeping students engaged. So the number one thing that I will see when I walk into a math classroom is students are up at the board and they're in pairs or in 3s, and they are working together to go through a math problem. Okay? What we find with this is that it gets students out of their seat, and it's also bringing in 21st century learning skills involved as well. So what we see here is I'll just go over a couple of them, the ST mystery. It's an estimation, and they try to figure out how many items are in this instance, in a vase, and figuring it out by problem. So as they move up, each numbers are given to try and break down the problem and see if they can get it before the last one's revealed. There's the number splat, beginning of algebra skill building, and the 12 days of math is a number sense. So those are just some examples that the teachers will use. Here's the vertical learning surfaces. Here's an example. It's a little dark, but that's one of our examples. So Alan did introduce this idea of using vertical learning surfaces where teachers find higher percentage of students' engagement. What we find as well, according to our data, is that not only helps students become more successful, the concept of the 21st century learning, communicating, critique, collaboration, and creativity improve the basis points of student success compared to other traditional methods, is what we have found. There's more success students acquiring credit. One form of assessment that I mentioned earlier is the problem-solving assessment. It's guiding instruction. This is the second year of its involvement in our classrooms. And it was created to aid in providing information to the math teacher to focus their instruction. It was created, this rubric was created by the teachers on a PD day. They collaborated together for an afternoon. And what the teachers have found is that it identifies students who need support in certain areas. So they will, on their own, figure out where a student needs to be within that pyramid, the red, yellow, and the green. But it's more used for the whole classroom, that 80% right now. We started with one class, by utilizing this assessment. And we are moved into another class. We've done the grade 4-5s, we've had the 5-6s, and we're having a PD day to move that rubric and see if it needs changing to move into the middle years, grade 7 and 8. What also we find is that it aids in grade profiling. It guides the instruction, as well as it provides students the ability to achieve a higher level of success, which you'll see right away in some of the data that I brought. We implement it twice a year. We do it once in fall, once in spring. Students who are on case files provide extra support. So if we find within that rubric on a student's assessment that there is a gap in learning, student services will get involved to help support that teacher along with the classroom teacher and the student. So here's the problem-solving rubric currently being used. Within this rubric, you'll see on the left-hand side the categories of understanding the problem, use of appropriate strategies, representation of answer, and the accuracy. And we go from 1 to 4, and as it progresses from 1 to 4, the skill set becomes more refined, is the best way to basically state it. So if we take a quick look at accuracy, the student is unable to find a solution to the problem. Okay? We move all the way to 4, the student was able to find the correct solution to the problem. So it's either they do or they don't, and then there's something in the middle. It's basically how we've created the rubric. So this is an example of the problem solving data that we came up with. And there's two pieces to it. I will take the data and I will put it into this format, which is below level at above level. The below level is where students are 1 and 2, and at and above they would score a 3, 4 upon those categorical areas. Okay? So in this situation, the teacher focused on strategies. As you can see, we have roughly 6 students that were below level of 1, 2, and they decided to work on strategies and then representation of the problem. So typically it's 6 to 8 weeks of working on strategies. After that, it's almost around the holidays, and we come back and they start working on the secondary piece that they find that the students need support in. What happened last year between term 1 and 3 report cards, so I broke it down to the summative results. So after the formative assessment in September, October, 6 to 8 weeks on one, 6 to 8 weeks on another category, took a look at the June results from the first reporting period to the last. And what we found was there was an improvement where students moved from yellow to green and red to yellow in concentrating on problem solving. What you'll also notice is that there is an increase from term 1 to term 3 for students coming in, so we had 2 new students come in. But when you break it down, There's an increase in green by 3 students and a decrease to the red by 1. The yellow remained the same, which indicates 1 from yellow moved to green, 1 student from red moved to yellow. And that typically is the movement that you will see. It's very rare that you will see a student who is in red in an assessment, in a formative assessment, move right up to a green in a summative. It is rare unless they're just not trying that day. It can happen, I will admit that, but generally no. Yellow and red zone. So the next part of the presentation will focus on these 2 zones, the yellow and red. Typically, these students who receive 2s will be 50 to 69%, and they will be in the yellow, and anything below 50 will be in red, and that is typically indicated in your 1 and ND format on the report card. And that's similar to what you'll see in the outcome-based assessment. So guiding our instruction, our second piece, the one that we borrow from the EAL program, it identifies students who need support. We do this typically in September. We try our best in September, but it normally happens near the end, beginning of October. And what we find with it is that students who are typically in red, the test, we don't do it, of course, at grade level in October. That's not fair to the students. What we do is we do the grade previous and 1 more year back to see if there's a gap in learning. The students who are typically in red have the gap in learning. The students who are in yellow could be hovering between the previous 2 grades moving into the 3rd, is what we generally find. With this, we have the assessment. It gives us instruction, so it helps also guide our instruction to what could be needed right at the beginning when they're starting their courses in September and October, and what the students are in need of. It also provides us the collaboration that's needed between the classroom teacher and the learning support teacher. The learning support teacher will work typically starting off with the students who are in red with one-on-one instruction. We don't just do, okay, you're going to do this work and then you're going to go do the new work which is being taught today. That's not the aim of RTI. The aim of it is this is what's being taught today, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at where you were at in the assessment, bridge that gap, and then attach it to what's happening today. So for example, if a student is struggling in 1 grade on the assessment, they're supposed to be doing doing addition in 3s, right? So you're moving 1s, 10s, and 100s, right? The previous grade, maybe they struggled with doing addition of 2s, 1s, and 10s. Moving to the 3rd, to that level, is going to be very difficult for them if they have not grasped the concept of the 1s and 10s. So we'll reteach that. We'll have the one-on-one instruction, and then we bring in the 3rd so that they can get back into the classroom very quickly. The learning support, it's a collection of the data. It's charted. I sit with the learning support teacher, which is now our resource department, and we go over all of the data. We create a list of names. We figure out where we're going to go with this. And before the program even starts, we make sure that we contact the guardians so that they are aware of where their student is at and what we're going to do for them and how they can also be a part of bridging the gap in learning with the guardian. So we reteach the outcome, like I stated, to the previous grade and connect it to the current lesson, and we collaborate with the classroom teacher. So here's an example of the numeracy outcome assessment. This is a grade 4. One question is on the right. It's question 4-3, and it's calculating the area. And on the left is what the teacher will mark down. Did they get it correct, incorrect, or was it not answered? We started this year now for grades 1 through to 6. We've connected it to the outcomes for each grade level and where they're and what is being taught. So what you'll see is, for example, you might see something like 4 and 8. Well, that's grade 4 numbers S, specific learning outcome 8. What we are finding with this document, and this is why we're going to, the next PD day, we're going to be taking a look at it, is that some of the outcomes are being asked 2 to 3 times within the assessment, and is it needed? I can't answer that. That will come when we do our PD in March. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at. The data. This is what our data looks like. We assess the grade 1 to 8s 3 times a year. So we do it typically September, October. We do it again February, March, and then again May or June to see where students are at. From the charts on the left, you will see the red, the yellow, and the green codes being used. 12 questions were asked, and the number indicated was recorded with a color given based on where they placed in the RTI pyramid. This grade was our best case last year. This is our best case scenario. So what you'll see is the 50% or lower will receive a red on how many questions they answer correctly. You will see 70% or lower will receive yellow, and above 70% is green. Okay. And then what I do is I take that, I then put it into chart form, and that on the first chart on the top, and this is what I typically will go over with the numeracy learning support teacher, and further know where we're going to go with this and who's in need right away, and who do we need to can we actually bridge some red with some yellow, and that has actually happened, depending on the outcome that's being taught. In June, we had all the students move from reds and yellows over to the green. Now this is based upon the previous grade and some of the current grade. Okay. And that's all I have to share. I was limited. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for letting me share the great things that are happening in Whitehall. Yep.
Thanks, Randall. Appreciate it. Are there any questions for Randall? So Randall, certainly one of the things that the board has been looking for is our schools looking at data and informing their practice about how to go ahead and teach, and you're showing us those kind of things. So thank you for going that. Do you have a plan? Do you have a problem that you're looking at and how you're developing those things? Thanks for sharing that certainly with us. Are you sure there's nobody who wants a question for Randall? Trustee Boydson.
I know you talked about numeracy today, but I was just wondering if you followed the same kind of program, that response intervention program for your literacy program.
Yes, we do. That started 3.5 years ago, actually, and this whole concept was derived from the literacy program.
And I'm just curious about your other goal of culture. What do you do for that? Just because, I mean, that's huge. The school culture is big. Just in what kind of program you run for that?
I actually had a slide about it, but someone didn't allow me to put it on, but that's okay. I can't go specifically to it, but what it is, it was a 3-year journey, actually. It was a 3-year journey, even through all of the, I guess you could say, all of the guidelines we had to follow during COVID. We still pressed hard forward, and the culture that we went forward with was trying to figure out, number one, who we were in our values and our beliefs, and it took 3 years of a lot of PD, a lot of analyzing data, not just numerical data. It was qualitative as well, and looking at surveys, talking with students, bringing it all together, and coming up with 6 statements of what we believe and value in Whitemount School, and that's plastered through every classroom, and 2 big signs in one in the gym and one in the front office. So that's what we mainly worked on.
Anyone else for Randall? Okay, I'm going to ask you 2, Randall. One of them is loaded. I've never asked this question before, but I want to ask you. If I were following you for a day, and then we met at the end of the day, and I said, wow, Randall, you did this, 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 and this. So what's a typical day for Randall? and you don't have 10 hours to go ahead and answer the question, but what's a typical day for Randall at Whitemouth School?
Well, that's okay. I can sum it up pretty quick, actually. Typical day is pretty much first thing in the morning is greeting all the students at the front door. Sometimes I'll go to the bus, sometimes it'll just be with the high school and middle years. I kind of move around like that. Then as soon as Old Canada and all of our announcements are done, I move to every classroom. I say good morning and how is everybody's day. Sometimes I'll stay for 10 minutes to watch a bit of a lesson, and I engage and get it off rail and then leave. That's what I do sometimes. I also go to, as I'm going through every classroom, it takes me typically 45 minutes to an hour. Then after that, it's communicating with guardians. Basically, guardians, senior admin, whoever needs answers to questions, and working on projects for the school, planning PDs, planning different things for staff, and as well as for students. Currently running 2 courses, you didn't hear that, for one student who is graduating early. And so I make sure that that student has everything they need and marking things, and then typically getting up, moving around every break with students all the time, moving around, and sometimes involved in some sports, depending on the sport. And then outside playing with the students and moving towards the end of the day, and hopefully no behaviors. And if there is, walk and talk. That's typically what I do.
That was awesome. Thanks, Randall, for that. The other question is, we're right in the thick of budget. And you know, when we go ahead and take a look at it, and we take a look at the size of your school and the work that you're doing, those kind of things, how are you resourced? And I'm not going to say if you had a wish list, because they're not going to, you know what, there really isn't a wish list, but how are you resourced, and what would you want to go ahead and tell us that's real important to you?
The number one thing that is really important and resourced is the learning support. Having someone to be a part of that program, what I'm finding though is trying to allocate that support right now. And typically it started out as basically a 0.5 learning support teacher. And now what I've done is the learning support teacher I don't have, and I have now moved it into student services. And based on caseload, figuring out where we can go with that and how much time we can give. So that's really important to us, and to maintain our goal set as the learning support teacher within the foundation of student services.
Anyone else? Don, engaged to ask a question?
Not really, but I'll ask one question. So what I'm hearing you saying is that as long as you keep the same number of teachers and support staff, you'll continue to do a good job. Is that correct?
You are correct.
So let me ask you, what is your support team like? Tell us about what your support team is in student support services. What's your team? I know that you've got 15.48, but what does your team look like?
As in amount of time, currently it's 1.5. We've had an increase in students in needing support, and currently 1.5 doesn't meet that need to be able to continue on with the learning support program that we have in place. So an increase a little bit would help tremendously, not only for the students but also for the programs.
And what do you do with your SBDM dollars?
For numeracy specifically, we purchased those kits. So I didn't have a grade 2-3 kit. I didn't have kindergarten. I didn't have 7 to 9. So I purchased those kits. Our apps that we use with all of our iPads and our computer systems. So that Mathletics, that SumDog comes out of that as well. And also getting substitutes in for collaboration time during the math residency programming.
Thank you, Kath. Did you want to jump in? Anyone else? So Randall, thanks for sharing certainly with us. We appreciate you taking the time and giving us a little bit of a taste of what Whitemouth School is like. And a day in the life of Randall Bonito at Weymouth. It's the first time, and I didn't know if that was a loaded question, and if I do, I apologize. Well, I don't really apologize. I'm going to find out, but that's, you know what, you did awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. Congratulations.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on. We have minutes from February the 7th, so be resolved the board adopt our February 7th meeting minutes. A move and a seconder. Moved by trustee Nichol, seconded by trustee Roland. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Past 9-0, thank you. 6.1 is our superintendent's report. Kath, turn to you.
Thank you very much. A couple of things that I just wanted to quickly highlight in the superintendent's report. One of the things that happen at each of our schools is a school team leader, and it is really an important piece because you've heard from the school presentations that they are doing work on their goals in certain areas. And this school team leader is a person who can kind of be the go-between between an administrator and what happens in the classroom. They're an extra set of eyes and ears to make sure that the work is being done and can kind of bring those ideas back to the principal. We have one per each of our community schools, and we work with them to make sure that they're equipped to do that work in their schools. I am excited that this spring we'll be able to do some work with leaders in our school division. We have a developing leaders cohort, and in the past we've had 20 to 30 people who've come and joined us in the evenings, and we do a 4:30 to 6:30 session. We do a 4:30 to 6:30 session, and we've had a ton of people who've come out and want to just do some work on their leadership. We do a working dinner. We'll bring in some dinner, and everybody works through dinner. And very typically, I have to chase them out with a broom because they would stay here and talk for an extra hour or so. So we sort of zhuzh them out the door. I shared the calendar last time, and I did want to do a quick thank you, but a huge thank you to ICT. We are creeping up in the last couple of days on our switch from EdSembly to Power School, and they have been phenomenal in terms of the support they've given to secretaries and administrators and teachers, and have made that as seamless as humanly possible. There are always going to be bumps and bruises on a software implementation, never mind a mid-year one. They've done just a brilliant job. I think the last piece is just every now and then we get consulted on certain projects, so you can have a little read through on some of the projects that we're being consulted on. And unless there are questions, that is my report.
Questions from anyone? All right, Kath, thanks very much. We'll move on to 7.1. Jody, Secretary Treasurer report.
On my mic. Okay. Yeah, I've provided a report to the board as to what the operational departments have been up to. I'll just talk briefly about them. Transportation was exposed or got to experience an electric bus hands-on at the last MASBO Transportation Conference that was held a few weeks ago. So there was a lot of good, unique information about that. And I can definitely say it was a unique experience. I personally wasn't there, but our transportation manager was, and it was pretty neat to see it up close and personal and see what the features are. So it's a cool thing coming to us. There were some other highlights about what maintenance has been up to with the capital projects. The payroll department in finance has been busy working on the T4s for all the employees here at the school division. I believe on Friday they were sent out, so it was lucky for us to, everybody else can start working on their taxes. Other than that, we also engaged with a consultant to review our GST and PST practices to ensure we're still in adherence and following the guidelines submitted. So what they're going to do is make any recommendations, or if there's any discrepancies, make recommendations to the finance department as to what we can do to improve it. And if there's a possibility that we've actually over-submitted for PST and GST, they'll help us claim it back. So other than that, I just wanted to remind the public that we do have our budget meeting on February 23rd. So coming up in 2 sleeps, we'll have our budget meeting, and hopefully we'll have some folks in the audience and excited to listen.
Any questions for Jody? Trustee Nicol?
Do you have any date when the science labs are going to be finished?
I know I talked with Derek, and potentially at the end of February, as long as all the deficiencies have been discovered and fixed up. So I think the occupancy permit, as long as the deficiencies have been completed, should be at the end of February. But I'll follow up with the department one more time to see if there's anything outstanding.
Any other questions? Trustee Rowland?
Just about the consultant for PST GST review, who did we go with and what prompted that review?
So we went with, I believe it's PFS Consultants, Gerald Levin. He's experienced in this category for other school divisions. The cost to the division is nothing. If he found, it's a cost only when he finds a discrepancy or something that we can claim back for GST and PST. So if there is nothing he found, there's no cost to the division. If he finds, say, $5,000 worth of potential PST we can claim back, he will take a portion of that and claim it back as a commission. So basically, if he finds nothing, it's no cost. But I have worked with him, other school divisions have worked with him, and he's been pretty successful at finding some discrepancies in invoices that we may have overpaid PST.
Anyone else? Two questions, Jody. You talked in here about that we went to Power School. So if you were to judge, and this is a you or Kathy question, what is our teachers' comfort level with using Power School?
I think our teacher comfort level in terms of attendance and reporting and all of the things that they need to do in the classroom is good. We're still working on grade book pieces. So whenever you switch a grade book, that's always super hard to get it to do exactly what your old grade book did. But they're doing some lunch and learns and doing a lot of learning on that. I think that they're ready, and when we flip the big switch, we'll be at the place where they're ready.
So flip the big switch as in when we go ahead and put a report card out in Power School, is that the switch? And what's the plan for that?
No, the big switch is that on February 28th when we turn Edsembly off and we don't have access to Edsembly anymore and we have Power School on. And am I comfortable and am I good with all of the things that I got out of Edsembly, and am I happy with where that is? Offices and secretaries are working on report cards and making sure that that's all in place. But right now we have teachers who are doing a great job of relying on each other and having tons of collaborative conversation around how that all works.
Okay, so then my question is, how are offices and principals then feeling comfortable about putting out report cards from Power School? And I guess there would be a report card coming out in March for that?
So our K-8s did the switch in the beginning of January so that they would be ready for their March report card. And then the high schools did the switch in February so that they would be ready for their April report cards. And the quick and dirty answer is that until those report cards are printed and sent home, no principal's ever completely comfortable with how the report cards print.
Yeah, so I'm speaking from experience about using Power School, and one of the things that when I was in Air Lake School Division, we talked about this already, was that we had a guru or someone that can go ahead and answer questions. So do we have a guru, or do we have someone that somebody can pick up the phone and please help me because this is where I am?
So the division has hired Scott Bestvader. He used to work in Hanover School Division, and he is our Power School guru for the back end and the wiring. The training for the pick up the phone and answer, Gord Tellick and Lindsay Fernando have been brilliant in terms of answering those questions through Teams and through service desk and phone and email and all sorts of back phone possibilities, so yeah.
So we're not going to, any of us are going to get a telephone call from a we're in pretty good hands, you think?
Yeah, again, we had a principals meeting last week, and I out loud said to the principals, I think that the pieces that we're experiencing right now are that this report isn't the same as what I used to see in Edsembly, but the information's there, and our comfort level of getting used to the new way it looks is probably the place we're at. I can't guarantee that anybody's not going to phone you, so.
Changing a teacher's grade book from using Edsembly to Power School and then making a report card is huge, of course. And you know what? If we think that we're in pretty good position right now, that's great. So thanks for going ahead and doing that. Anything else for Jody? Okay. Hearing none, we're going to go on to board business, the strategic plan. You've got that information that's there. We've talked a little bit about it as a board, talked about the domains that we're looking for. We said that after after budget, we were going to spend some time certainly on this. So please make yourself aware. If you need to ask some questions on it. But that is our next step certainly with it. Questions on that? Okay, thanks. And Kat, this is you, I guess, grade 3 for provincial assessment.
Yeah, so I just wanted to draw your attention. You have the report, but then there's also this piece here that is the actual report, and you will note that it says January 2022 based on fall 2021, not a typo. Because the province has typically given us our grade 3 and 4 provincial assessment info at the end of January, beginning of February, but now they've said you'll get that at the end of March. So I don't have our current grade 3 and 4 provincial assessment, but thought it was pretty important for you to have a look at what it is that we put into our report for the grade 3 and 4 assessment. These reports live on our website on the left-hand side under reports, so you can look at the 3, 4, 7, 8, and the grade 12 former assessments. They go through a number of competencies, and so I'll just grab this first one and you can read through at your leisure. This is the outcome of students reflecting on and setting their own reading goals. And it will take you through the last 4 years where we sit divisionally with the D compared to the province. It tells you our numbers and it tells you the provincial numbers, and it will go through all of those results for each of the core competencies that we do in grade 3 and 4. In grade 3, we do the assessments in English, and in grade 4, our French immersion students get those assessments. So I wanted to take the opportunity to explain a little bit about what the 3 and 4 assessment is and to give you a look at what the report is that will come to you after the end of March when we get our data.
Thanks, Kath. Any questions for Kath? Okay. Let's move on then. 8.3, fencing at Dugald School. We've talked a little bit about that, so this is some more information. We're waiting on Jody about arranging with the RM with regard to the meeting, and then talking about where we are with the fencing, knowing that we can't put fencing in the middle of winter, but that's looking like something that we want to go ahead and do. Fair enough. Anything else to add, Jody?
Okay. I reached out to the RM of Springfield. I have a meeting talking with our maintenance department and lining up the contractors. At this time, it's doable to get it done before the end of June. So it's just a matter of getting the communication with the RM of Springfield.
So Jody, if there are any counselors from the RM of Springfield that are going to join you in that meeting, then I want you to reach out to our trustees in the area to join you for that. So that, again, if you're meeting with the SEO, fine, but if you're meeting with any of the counselors at that meeting, I'd like to have some of our trustees there as well to have that discussion certainly as to where we go. Once we find that out, then we'll reach out to the Springfield area trustees and see where, so fair enough with the Springfield trustees? Okay. Yes, I can award some pretty important, so this is you, Lars?
You have the PDF of the slideshow, but I'm going to use the slideshow because there's a little bit of video in here. Really neat thing to highlight, a couple of our outstanding students and just a little bit of background information about the Yes I Can Awards for those of you who aren't familiar with it. This is Lyric and Dante from Powerview, and they are the recipients of 2 Yes I Can Awards. So this is presented through the Council of Exceptional Children. It's a North American and perhaps international group, but there's a Manitoba Council of Exceptional Children that has a conference every year, and part of that is the Yes I Can Awards. It's interesting to note that there's a committee that selects and chooses these awards and runs that committee, and Sunrise has had several staff members over the years that have been part of that. We've been part of CEC. I think Joanna Captain is still involved with that. She's been involved for a long time. Not going to go over all the background because we want to get to the details of the kids, but generally the areas are academics, athletics, community service, employment, independent living skills, and self-advocacy. And there are also awards for staff as well, for outstanding staff members. But we're going to focus on Lyric and Dante. So as part of the awards, schools submit an application and they give a write-up about the students for the awards, and this is read out at the awards. If you get a chance to go, you got to go. It's this year, it's tomorrow, so kind of short notice. But if you get a chance to go to the SICAN Awards, it's fantastic. All these kids and their families, it's a really smooth operation. It's a big gala event. It's fantastic. So Lyric is fiery and bright and always willing to talk about a funny emoji. Lyric is in year 13 at school and continues to work at the school, being the most helpful young lady. Lyric is a coffee cart breakfast program guru, and if you need anything clean, she is the best at it. Lyric is also like a right hand to the school librarian and is the greatest organizer. She also works outside of her community at Chicken Chef in town, where they praise her for her hard work. She loves technology and has a wide range of knowledge that helps her teach those around her. She's tough but sweet, and if you know Lyric, you're just better for it. So they add a whole bunch of other information about Lyric. She's been a star at that school for many years, and to just highlight some of the things she's doing. She's making her own pizza at Chicken Chef, and I think they added some comments at the end here about from other places. It's not just the staff. So these were comments about Lyric that other organizations have comment on her. So they read all this out about the students, they get up and they get their award, the SICAN Awards, and it's fantastic. And I believe I have, and I'm just hoping the sound will work. And the same thing with Dante. His awards in the area of independent living skills, and Dante is an incredible young man who is willing and up for anything. Dante is the most hardworking, gentle giant I have ever known, and it is a privilege to know him. Dante is in year 13 and continues to work on life skills at the school. He is the breakfast man, coffee cart, school helper extraordinaire, and he was the mascot for his school team this year. He's always willing to lend a helping hand, and although he works his tail off, he rarely requires praise, as he is so humble. He comes from a large family and values each and every one of them. He's interested in video games and dinosaurs and is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to anything outdoors. Dante also works outside of the community at the RCMP office, where he helps with whatever office job they need. He's one of a kind, and our school is so lucky to have him. And as with Lyric, there's lots of other information that they share and read out for. I mean, there are literally hundreds of people at these events, and every kid gets things read out about them, and it's a unique event. It's good that he's always well behaved. Well, maybe not all the time, but most of the time, like everybody. It's a pleasure to have in the life skills room. And they also submitted a video for Dante. And Kathy corrected me, it's Thursday. It's always Thursday, the SI Can Awards. I think the conference starts on Wednesday, but the SI Can Awards are on Thursday.
Thanks, Lars. Any questions for Lars? So Lars, I'm pretty proud that these are two kids from the school that I'm going to. I cannot go on Thursday. Do I think that I should be there on Thursday as opposed to coaching? I do. So it's going to be tough now for me to think about that, as to, because I think that this is huge. However, oh yeah, it's a public budget, I don't care about that. No. But I do think about it is, these are pretty big deals for kids, and you know what, I guess I'm not sure then, just turn yours off, sorry. How do we celebrate them? Do you know what, and I'm asking that, and don't get me wrong, just saying because they're kids from Powerview School right now, but these are pretty big awards, and it's also turning around to saying thanks to the staff that are doing it, but how do we say congratulations? How does our board say congratulations to stuff like this? I'm open for ideas. Kathy, you got an idea?
I believe one of the things that you guys have identified as your priorities is a school tour, and I think that you're actually coming up for a school tour on the 23rd of March, so you have a little bit of thinking time for how you might want to celebrate that when you come up.
So I think that whether it's Powerview or Hazel Ridge or anywhere, and I'm just kidding, Lorraine, I do think that we need to be celebrating these kids. And I'm not saying that we're, taking them on a, that we're giving them thousands of dollars. That's not it. But I do think that it's important for us to celebrate these kids and these staff that are, these awards are pretty important. So can we think about it, and whether we do it there or whether we bring them here, and maybe they don't want to come here and we have to go to them, is kind of what Kathy's talking about. But I do think that, at least if we're going to go ahead and do that, we try to bring their guardians there. Well, there's a bunch of us, and, make it a deal, and the staff, and recognize them for stuff that they've done. Because I think that we just don't do enough of those kind of things, and the more positive things I think that we can go ahead and do, I think that we should. So if that's one man's opinion, think about it as to what it is, but I won't let this go to, I'm going to keep on talking about it. Okay? But thanks, Lars, for this. Because there's obviously people that have worked pretty hard, a team of people that have got these kids to where they are and have been able to get these recognitions and to move on to do some of the things. So kudos to that team and you, Lars, for that work. Anyone else?
Where is it?
Where's what?
Where's the awards?
It's at the Victoria Inn Airport West by the airport at 7 o'clock, I believe, the SI Can Awards start.
It is tough because it is our public budget meeting, but let's figure, yeah, I got it. But anyways, if that's not the case, whatever we can do. Let's move on from it, but thanks very much, Lars. Big deal. And we've had Yes I Can Winners Awards from a variety of different schools, a number of them from Edward Schreier School that I can remember over the years. So it's a big deal. Thank you for that. 8.5, trustee PD funds. Was I supposed to do something with this? Okay.
So one of the things that we wanted to set was to give trustees an idea of what our PD funds are. So you have a report there that part of our budget has been to set aside some PD funds. And then typically, I've cut out for you the pieces from your indemnity bylaw that kind of apply, but then anytime someone wants to attend a PD, it comes to this table for a motion, because I think your next item is Capsule Conference, CASA, and CSBA. So if there are folks that want to attend any of those conferences, then that draft motion is there in place for you so that you know that process.
Thanks. Any questions from any of the trustees, certainly about that? Okay. I just wanted to make sure that then people knew about where it was and how much money we've budgeted to go ahead and do. And I would say that we didn't use that budget for the last probably 3 years anyways, because nobody was really traveling and we weren't traveling. And I don't remember, can Diane or Dawn or Robin, can you remember, Russ, can you remember somebody getting, using it even in the last 4 years? Don?
And yes, because I don't know how many, but we went to Capsule virtually. There's lots of PD that was virtually, so we used it, even though that we didn't go in person, but we used it virtually.
Thanks, Don. Good point. But I don't know if anybody traveled for the last little while. Diane?
In 2019.
So it was last used in 2019?
Russ and I attended Capsule in person.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. So just again, that was for information, and thanks, Kath, for a reminder about it. So we have a Capsule conference, CASA and CSBA. I asked Kathy to put some information together to explain the three. Go ahead, Kath.
So Capsule is a group that is the practical study of law and education. It's very HR oriented, it's very legalese oriented, but there are some pieces that are important potentially for school boards because your job is making sure that we are on point in all of the places we have for education. CASA is the Canadian Association of School System Administrators, so this would be the same as the Manitoba Association of School Superintendents. It's more a school superintendent's gig, and then the Canadian School Boards Association would be the equivalent of the Manitoba School Boards Association. So just wanted to get the dates and locations for each of those for you, and to remind you that if you are intending to attend any of them, then you do have an executive assistant in the person of Stacey Bonito who will help you to arrange for payment of the conference fees or flights or hotels and all of those lovely things. If you should want to go, then bring a motion to the table and she will help you out with all of that.
Anything from anyone? Trustee Smith?
I just had a question about Capsule. It says law and education. Would that give us any guidance with the like LGBTQ and all that that's going to be coming in?
Yeah, there are sessions, so there's typically keynote speakers that will talk to sort of trending issues in the country, and then there will be breakout sessions. So you'll very often find different people from around the country who are attending those breakout sessions based on what the need in their area might be.
You have to go online to either Capsule or CSBA and take a look at the workshops, just like I think Stacy sent out what are the workshops for coming up with MSBA about the workshops that people went ahead and chose. I know that the CSBA one in Banff has been real popular. They're saying it's pretty pricey about costs now as it's shorter notice because people booked it back then. But if you wanted to take a look at the CSBA one in Banff with regard to the program, and if that's something that's interested you, come back to the group and talk to us. That's what it's about. Anything further on that? Okay, thanks, Kath, for doing that for us. Wellness Initiative report. Thanks, Kath. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm super excited to report back that all of our staff groups did some work on wellness, and I have chosen to give you the report in a way where I hope it meets all of your needs. The board approved a motion for $36,260 to be spread across a whole number of sites, and the sites did a very good job of efficiently using their money and spent $34,822 on the following things. I wanted to give you a look at the things that they spent money on, but most importantly to let you know that each of the sites had voice in how they were going to spend their money. And the biggest part of that value for the dollars was in being able to choose where we wanted to spend the funds. I also want to spend a little bit of time and do a shout out because in this little paragraph here where we look at the local places that supported our folks. So Peppercorn Restaurant, the Town Bake Shop, Tim Hortons, Co-op Food Stores, Costco and Smitty's from Winnipeg, the Spicy Radish in Whitemouth, Pennyweight and Beausejour, Subways across the area, Santa Lucia, who has made their way into rural Manitoba, I Heart Coffee, Back at the Ranch, Springfield Place, some Superstore purchases, Chop Restaurant, Walmart, Oakbank Chinese Restaurant, and Taste of Time. As often as possible, our schools also went local for buying any swag for their schools or some of those craft supplies and herbal teas. That was something that was pretty important to them. So I wanted to give you a flair for the things that they spent their money on and how happy they are for the items that they get to enjoy in their staff rooms or as they wander around in their toques and hoodies and t-shirts.
Anybody want to comment, any feedback that people have heard themselves from this? I'm going to give you feedback then. Oh, sorry, did you have your hand up, Melissa?
I had the opportunity to go to the wellness lunch that SCI had, and they got some personalized mugs, and I was there when they opened them all, and the appreciation, you could see it on their faces as they were opening up the gifts. They were pretty neat mugs because they've got a top, like if you're drinking coffee or tea, they've got it so you could have a can in there, but they've also got a little puck to put at the bottom as an ice pack. So it keeps your can cold longer, and they're all personalized. It says STI, and then it's got the teacher's name on it. So, yeah, they're really nice.
Anyone else want to comment? So, maybe I've received an awful lot of thank yous, but I have from a lot of the schools, and it's, well, thank you, Paul, and I say, well, it's not thank you, Paul. It is thank you to 9 trustees that made the decision to go ahead and do this. But I think that, Kathy, the bigger thing that it was is that the trustees trusted us with $35,000 for us to make decisions on to go ahead and do that. I think that was the bigger part of the thank you. That people went, and you know what, we did it because of what was going on, and it wasn't extra money for us, those kind of things, but again, have I heard lots of positive things? I certainly have. So I just want to come back and my comment back to the people and say, pick up the phone and call Dustin or Melissa. Pick up the phone and call Lorraine Boytson, because you're thanking Paul, but you need to be thanking the trustees that are in your area for those kind of things. So anyways, I've heard it lots from schools, and I wanted to share that I thought it was a great idea. Anyone else? Last comments? Okay. Wellness, Springfield Chamber of Commerce. So this is me. So the Springfield Chamber of Commerce is putting on a job fair. The job fair is March the 4th. One of my hats is that I'm sitting on the Chamber of Commerce for the Springfield Chamber of Commerce. And when Shandy approached me, I thought that would be a really good idea that in March the 4th, right around budget time when we were deciding on March the 7th, what a great idea for us, a way to reach out to community and find out from community at this job fair whether this would be interested to man a table and sit around and talk to the public, certainly about stuff that's going on in the school division. And so I'm thinking that it's a good idea for us to purchase a table, and it's not millions of dollars, I don't know what it is, but for trustees then to go out, and I'm willing to spend some time there. However, if we're going to spend money, it needs a motion and those kind of things for us to go ahead and do that. And just comments then from other trustees, because one of the things that we did say about reaching out to the community, and it doesn't mean that you have to be a trustee in Springfield to go ahead and sit there and do that. This could be open to all trustees, but those are my thoughts. Shared comments. Paul, that's a stupid idea. Go ahead. Paul, it's a great idea for us to do that. Paul, I can't do this. What are your thoughts? Dustin?
I like the idea of not only being visible, but again, networking with stakeholders that are also vested in our community. I regrettably have commitments already on March 4th. Otherwise, I'd go, but I have family commitments that day. But I think it's a great idea, and I encourage anybody else to come to the beautiful community of Oakbank. And you okay there, Stacy? Yeah, okay, okay.
Quiet.
And so that's it for me.
Anyone else? Trustee Rowland?
I would just say that no harm can be done by attending that thing, and I do know that some businesses in Springfield have reached out to me or had comments, let's say, about how they could work with our schools and have take on student training opportunities in their own businesses and stuff like that. So I think there's a connection that can be made there for our businesses to maybe talk to schools about opportunities for students to be placed there for training. And I also think it'd be a great opportunity for us to connect with our community, because I'm a strong advocate of collaborating with our communities and pooling resources and make the best opportunities for our citizens and schools and the community. So I think that would be a great idea. And possibly I could help you out. I'll just have to confirm a calendar.
Anyone else? Okay, so I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to motion that the Board of Trustees purchase a table at the Springfield Chamber of Commerce at SEI on the job fair at SEI on March the 4th. I think the table is $150 for trustees. So it's $150? Early bird. We missed early bird? Oh, we're a member, okay. So $150, so my motion, Stacy, was that we're going to go ahead and purchase a table, and it would be manned by trustees for community outreach at the job fair at SEI on March the 4th. Need a seconder to that motion. Seconded by trustee Dent. Any more comments to that? Go ahead, Alicia.
I just, if we can get emailed the more information, like the times and locations, in case I can make it.
It's from 10 till 7, or do we expect any one person to be there from 10 till 7? No. But totally up to people if they can go ahead and do that. Will I spend some time there? Yes. Trustee Harris?
I went to the website while you were talking there. The website says it's 8 to 8, a little bit longer, and that Sunrise School Division is having a job fair table already there. So this would be in addition to that. Like the trustees would have their own table to discuss. We wouldn't tie in. We wouldn't want to tie in with our. We're listed as a Sunrise, as a vendor, as an exhibitor.
Anyways, all we're committing to is a trustee table, not to a job fair for anyone else. So if it's us, it's not about human resources. This is us going ahead and reaching out. Russ?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea to me. I'm just wondering why, or if we could for another year think of having it on a Friday or something, and then you could bus students from places like Powerview and Lac du Bonnet and Whitemouth, and they'd have a chance to participate as well. Just the grade 12s or whatever, but I know that would be logistically difficult maybe to...
Oh, a great idea, Russ, as to what it is. Do I know why it's March the 4th? No, I don't. But it's a Springfield Chamber of Commerce. It's not necessarily just, well, it's not only for high school kids. It's for the general public for sure. Interest in the chamber. Any other comments? So be it resolved that the Board of Trustees purchase and man a table to the Springfield Chamber of Commerce job fair at Springfield Collegiate on March the 4th, 2023. With a cost value of $150. So that's what I moved, and it was second. Are you okay with that, Dustin? Okay, we're going to have a show of hands for us. If we're going to spend any money, it has to have a show of hands. Go ahead and do that. I'll go around table. Melissa? Yes. Diane? Yes. Russ? Yes. Alicia? Yes. Dawn? Yes. Dustin? Yes. Lorraine? Yes. Robin? Yes. Paul? Yes. Okay, let's move on. Thank you for doing that. And again, so do you know what? I will reach out to trustees and see if people can go ahead and have times there and see where we get to. Thank you. Community reports, policy committee update. So policy chair, that's trustee Boytson. Anything to add?
No updates.
Finance committee, trustee Rowland. Anything to add?
No, we're having a meeting later this week, and so next meeting we'll have some things for you to review.
Okay, so we don't have anything from the Finance Committee. 814, the Education Foundation, there's nothing to report, that it's still on there. Capsule, we've got the information there, but we're not moving forward with anything with Capsule, correct? Yeah. Is there anybody that's thinking of that? Well, again, we can wait, you can wait until the next time that we get together, but it's there just for people if they're interested in going. Okay? We have the MSBA coming up March 16th and 17th. Stacy has talked to everybody, and you've got the information that's out there. We did say that we were going to try to get together one of the evenings. Has that been settled? Okay.
Just one thing, we were going to donate a prize, and the deadline for the prize is February 24th, and that has to be to the attention of Rial Dion. So I don't know if anything's been decided about what we're going to donate.
So you're donating one of those heifers that you've got there? What is it? No, you're right. You're right. We did go ahead and do that. Do we need a motion to do that, Kath? Or Kath, are you on that, or what have we done?
So we did do the ask of the schools, and right now there is no uptake from schools on making any of the donations or the prizes for donations. So we were going to, as a senior admin team, just get some prizes and make sure that we had some from existing schools.
So can we reach out to, whether Derek can help us with getting something from one of our suppliers, and, can we put something in there? Okay, so do we need anything official, or we just know that we're going to do that? Okay, so we're all good. We're going to go ahead and do that. Any questions? All right, thanks. Northeastman Municipal Forum. Trustee Boytson, Rowan, and Trustee Dent all attended. Would you like to share anything?
Just a brief little update. First of all, I just wanted to say that our division was represented by Kathy presenting, and we want to thank you for that because you represented us well. We were the only school division present, so that was kind of a kudos to our division. It was interesting information that was shared between the municipalities. It's sometimes nice to hear that other people have challenges too, and they definitely did have some challenges that they did share. And it was really a great opportunity for us to connect with our local municipalities and be a presence there.
Thank you. Trustee Rowan, did you want to add?
I was just wondering if there was reports that were submitted that could be attached to our agenda. Like sometimes presenters at the Eastman Forum have reports that they provide. Maybe they could be attached.
Okay, so I think that Kathy will attach those for the future when we go ahead and do those. That'll be good. Thank you. Anybody else want to add to that? Thanks, Lorraine, for doing that. I made a miss, and a miss was when we talked about the wellness report 8.7. You all saw the card that we received. So we received a card from the adult learning centers. And if you haven't seen it, it's signed from our adult learning centers, and it's really about thanks very much for the funds to do a wellness activity. We really enjoyed visiting, and the Leaf Lunch and being able to get together. And it's signed certainly by all. Whoops, if you haven't seen it, I'll pass this around. But that's I think everybody saw it. Okay, I'll move it this way. But I missed that, so thanks for that. Professional development, 10.1, there is not a divisional summary report. Board correspondence, nice to know information are all listed there. We're right in the thick of budgeting, and it should be an interesting meeting on Thursday. We have upcoming meetings, so our public budget meeting, and it starts at 7 o'clock, correct, Jody, Kathy? So it starts at 7 o'clock on Thursday. Press releases, if I'm going too fast, please help me. 14.1, questions from the public. Jody, do we have any questions from the public? Serena, is there anything that you want to jump in and say or comment or question?
can get that working. There we go. So just before I leave, as you guys go into in-camera, I just ask that as you all move forward and how to decide to spend the money in the budget, all I ask is that you keep the students' interests in your mind, and I believe boots on the ground and people in the trenches are our best way to support our students. And that could be hiring full-time teachers, part-time teachers. As you heard earlier, support teachers, student support teachers are essential. Itinerant supply, EA teachers, even student teachers. Having students get as much one-on-one time with qualified professionals is key. So thank you for letting me share that.
Okay, Serena, that wasn't a question, but thanks very much for doing that. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Serena, I will tell you is that I've heard some very good things of the work that you're doing with Sunrise Teachers Association from teachers, and so kudos to the work that you're doing. Nice. Jody, do we have any questions from the public? So we do not have to move into in-camera. I do believe that that puts us to the end, correct? All right, so Trustee Boyton?
Just one thing, I just want to thank our Secretary Treasurer and her team and our administrators for everything that they have worked so hard, they've put in so many hours, and I know that the information was kept dropping on you in little bits and pieces, and you were constantly, getting those numbers put in and giving us the information that we needed, so I just want you to know that we really do appreciate everything that you did.
Yeah, great point, Lorraine, and we're not done yet as to where we are. All right, so we are going to adjourn. I will hold the board here for a minute because we have one other thing, but it's not related, but we're in adjournment. Thank you.